So what we've got is an unboxing here of a Kodak Retina 1B, which was purchased off eBay, so we can have a look, see what it's like. And this is a Kodak 1B folding camera. It's got a 50mm f2.8 Xena lens. Comes with a case. I got it for $59.99. It was a buy now price, and it's got a nice compur LVS synchro shutter. And the 1B is a nice camera because it has some nice parts to it. So we'll just let's have a look, see how this was nicely packed. Lots of packaging in there. Comes with its original leather case, which looks to be intact. So the Kodak Retina 1B, it's a great camera. Very well built. All the Retinas are well built cameras. This is circa 1954 to 1958 time period, 35mm. It's Xena 50mm 2.8 coated lens, so it's a coated lens, and it interestingly enough has an interchangeable front component. So let's open her up. Strap looks to be reasonably well intact, and there's the camera. Looks okay. We unscrew it from the case. Case is solid hide, so it's a nice leather case, and it's got the cutout specially made for the film winder, so that fits in there nicely. If you can get one with a case, that's a bonus. It means you can keep it in the case even though the film winder is on the bottom of the case. So on the back we've got Kodak Retina camera. Leatherette's nice, no bumps or anything there. These cases on the 1B, this model, are nice. They've got the rounded edges, and the front has a nice rounded edge as well. So that's a nice addition. And when we open her up, you can see it's a nice solid camera. The lens is very clean. I think it said on the description, it says some signs of use present as seen in the images, some light dust in the optics, but from what I can see is, for its age, we're talking about 1960s, so you know, getting on now. It's a nice camera. These cameras have a very solid feel about them, very metal based, no plastic in sight, open up really solidly. To close them, you just pinch these two spring knobs, top and bottom, and close it, and it closes nicely. It's a great everyday camera. They're built to last, and they're built very solidly. So if we twist the back like that twisting action, it's got a spring in there, is the action that opens the back of the camera. And what you do is you twist it, and then you press this little button here. So as you twist it, it exposes the little button, and then you press it. That pops the catch and opens the back. So in the back we've got film winder mechanism, spool, take up spool. We've got the loader for your 35mm film, spring back, little bit of a tensioner there. All very clean. No light seals on here, or the light seals that are on here are either worn away or not required. I think because of the way the tin of the case is angled, it creates its own light trap, so you don't have that problem. We open up the case again, we'll just have a look with the lens out. It's all in all a very nice camera, definitely worth the money. So let's have a look at the front, see what we've got. These cameras aren't particularly rare, but they still go for very good value. You can see by the lens, it's a great little lens, and they have a very nice feel focus mechanism on the side. It's quite a fast mechanism, and it's a zone focus, and you can see infinity all the way around to 3 foot, so you would set that manually. So the zone focus, in conjunction with the aperture, gives you the depth of field. So as you can see here, we've got f22 and f22 on that zone. So basically when we focus and we say something, let's just say 6 feet away, if we're on f2.8, we've only got a very narrow focus span, so we would go from basically 5 foot to 7 foot. That's the only area that would be in focus. Of course, if we were to look at, say, the f22, if we set the aperture to f22, we would have focus from 3.5 feet all the way around here to 15 feet. But obviously that's on the smallest aperture with the biggest depth of field. And you can adjust the aperture by moving this dial around here. The other nice thing about these cameras is they had an exposure guide, EV value, around the side here, which had a lock on it, and with the lock you could lock the focus and the aperture If I moved from the light meter, if you had a light meter, the EV value, as I move the value given to me by the light meter, it obviously moves the aperture on the front here. So you can either use EV values or you can use the aperture. Once you've set one or the other, they are both locked together. So fundamentally, you would select your distance, select your aperture, which will give you the area that would be sharp in focus, effectively the depth of field. Winding the camera is from the base. You wind it on with your thumb, which some people like. It means you can keep your finger near the shutter speed, wind it, and it declutters the top of the camera as well. And obviously the winding mechanism is directly next to the actual winding film mechanism inside the camera. And then when you've set your aperture and everything else, shutter speed, etc., when you take the film camera, it basically releases the shutter on the side of the camera and releases the shutter. So now we have, because of the way in which the camera works, when you lock together your aperture and your shutter speed on the front here, so if I was going for a shutter speed of 30th of a second, and my EV value or aperture is set to f8, then these two are now locked together. So that means that when I move this ring, I'm basically moving both the aperture and the shutter speed. So they both self-compensate. For once you've got your base exposure, you can go either way. So like I say, if you were to set one up and then set your EV value to whatever you want to be, so in this case, we would be setting it to f8, 30th of a second from the light meter. That would mean that if I want to change the aperture because of the lighting conditions or the depth of field that I want, and I want to go to f22, it's automatically compensated and set the shutter speed now to 1/4 of a second. Conversely, if I was to move it to a wide aperture of f2.8, I would correspondingly have a shutter speed of 250th of a second. So once you've basically set your shutter speed up to start with, the rest is self-compensating. This is the beauty of these type of cameras. You can use them in a semi-automatic way. So once I've got my aperture, say set to f2.8, I know that my depth of field is, if I'm focusing on something that I think is 6 foot away, it's between 5 foot and 8 foot. But if I had my aperture on f22 at 6 foot, or roughly 6 foot away, I know that I'd be in focus from 3.5 feet all the way around to 15 feet away. What a wonderful camera. They are serialized on the top, so you can check the serial number for the age of the camera. There is controls to rewind the film when the film is finished and to adjust the film counter. Shutter is linked directly to the shutter on the lens, and the shutter is a compur synchro, so it's a great shutter. All in all, great camera. Compared to a lot of cameras, for around £60, you end up with a fully working camera that looks the part. And when you put these cameras away, when you put these cameras away, you have to have the focus set right round here to infinity. If you try and close it when it's not on infinity, you won't be able to press these buttons to close the lens. You move the focus round to infinity, then you can squeeze these two buttons and you'll feel them go in at that point, and then you can close the front cover. Quite often with these cameras, you will find that they've been abused with people who don't understand that, and they've tried to close the front cover without setting the focus to infinity, and that can quite often weaken the front door. So it's a nice bright viewfinder, simple, no rangefinder, just literally set on manually. You've got a film indicator speed, which are obviously all the old films, and you have the VXM Flash sync as well on the camera. So all in all, it's a great little camera, and if you can find one in good condition at this price, personally, I would snap it up. That's the Kodak Retina 1B, beautiful camera, very solid. Please like and subscribe if you find these videos interesting, and I will see you on the next video.